A massive spaceship descended, its shadow engulfing the anxious crowd. This was no ordinary visit. The Tarlonian warriors, renowned throughout the galaxy, were joining the intergalactic alliance. Among them was the formidable Lyra, the tallest and most imposing of her kind. As she emerged, a hush fell over the assembly. Lyra was a striking figure, over 7 feet tall, with lean, powerful muscles and skin that shimmered with a subtle azure sheen. Her dark, intense eyes were difficult to read, and the silver armor she wore seemed to pulsate with an inner light. Her stern demeanor radiated an unmistakable warning, "Don't approach." The diverse crowd of alien species exchanged hushed whispers, a mix of awe and apprehension rippling through them. The Tarlonians were legendary for their fierce protection of their home world, their combat prowess whispered about in hushed tones. No one, however, anticipated Lyra's sheer power. Within the throng stood a young human from Earth named Kai. He was a mechanic for the Alliance, his passion for exploring the galaxy having led him to this moment. He, like the others, had heard tales of the Tarlonians, but instead of fear, he felt an unusual thrill. Kai thrived on encountering new species, learning their cultures and histories. Lyra, in his eyes, was the most captivating being he'd ever seen. As Lyra descended the ramp, the crowd parted respectfully. Her heavy boots resonated with each step, her presence intensifying. Some aliens recoiled, unable to withstand her intense gaze. She offered no smiles or nods, merely observing with a calm, focused intensity. Kai, however, noticed a hint of weariness in her eyes, a subtle detail missed by the others. He wondered if he was imagining it. Finally, Lyra reached the Alliance leader, a tall alien with pale green skin and flowing tentacles. The leader, his voice trembling slightly, welcomed her. "Lyra of Tarlon, it is an honor to have you among us." Lyra nodded in acknowledgement, her gaze sweeping over the gathered dignitaries. Her silence amplified the tension. The leader cleared his throat and gestured towards the assembly, introducing her to the other members. However, as Lyra's eyes met theirs, they quickly averted their gazes, intimidated. Kai felt a pang of sympathy for her, imagining the isolation that must accompany such a formidable reputation. Summoning his courage, he stepped forward and offered a friendly wave. Lyra's gaze shifted to him, and a shiver ran down his spine. He held his ground, maintaining his warm smile. For a fleeting moment, Lyra's expression softened slightly. It wasn't a smile, but a subtle shift in her eyes hinted at an appreciation of his gesture. She gave a small nod before returning her attention to the leader. This small interaction did not go unnoticed. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, surprised that the feared warrior had acknowledged a simple human. Kai felt a surge of pride, as if he had breached a formidable barrier. He knew some might view his action as foolish, but he believed everyone, regardless of power or demeanor, deserved kindness. As the crowd dispersed, Kai observed Lyra, sensing that beneath her quiet exterior lay more than just a warrior. He perceived a history of battles fought and burdens carried. He was intrigued by her story, her reasons for joining the Alliance, and the complexities that lay beneath her formidable exterior. Unbeknownst to him, this small connection would blossom into an unlikely friendship that would astonish everyone. Kai's simple gesture was the first step in an adventure beyond his wildest imagination. A colossal starship touched down, its vast silhouette blanketing the apprehensive onlookers. This wasn't a routine arrival. The Tarlaxi warriors, famed across the cosmos, were formally joining the Galactic Federation. Among them was the awe-inspiring Alana, the most imposing of her kin. As she appeared, a hush descended upon the diverse assembly. Alana was a remarkable sight, well over 7 feet in height, with sculpted musculature and skin that glistened with a faint cerulean tint. Her dark, inscrutable eyes held a depth that was difficult to fathom, and the silver-hued armor she wore seemed to thrum with an otherworldly energy. Her austere expression conveyed a clear message: keep your distance. The assembled alien species exchanged muted whispers, a mix of wonder and unease palpable in the air. The Tarlaxi were renowned for their unwavering defense of their home world, their combat skills the stuff of legend. No one, however, had anticipated Alana's sheer presence. Among the crowd stood a young Terran named Reese, a Federation mechanic whose lifelong fascination with space exploration had led him to this moment. Like the others, he'd heard the tales of the Tarlaxi, but rather than fear, he felt a strange exhilaration. Rhys relished encountering new civilizations, learning about their traditions and histories. Alana, in his view, was the most captivating being he'd encountered. As she descended the ramp, the crowd respectfully dispersed. The metallic clang of her boots echoed with each measured step, her aura growing stronger with each footfall. Several aliens flinched, unable to meet her intense gaze. She offered no greetings, simply observing with a quiet, focused concentration. Rhys, however, detected a flicker of fatigue in her eyes, a subtle nuance missed by the rest. He wondered if it was merely his imagination. Alana finally reached the Federation president, a towering extraterrestrial with light jade skin and elegant, flowing appendages. The president, voice slightly unsteady, greeted her, "Alana of Tarlax, it's a privilege to welcome you to our ranks." Alana inclined her head in acknowledgement, her eyes sweeping across the assembled dignitaries. Her silence only amplified the existing tension. The president coughed and gestured toward the group, introducing her to the various representatives. Yet, as Alana's gaze met theirs, they quickly averted their eyes, visibly intimidated. Rhys felt a surge of empathy for her, imagining the loneliness that must accompany such an imposing reputation. Mustering his courage, he stepped forward and offered a small, friendly wave. Alana's eyes shifted to him, sending a tingle down his spine. He held his ground, maintaining a warm smile. For the briefest of moments, Alana's expression softened almost imperceptibly. It wasn't a smile, but a subtle change in her eyes hinted at a recognition of his gesture. She gave a curt nod before returning her attention to the president. This brief interaction didn't go unnoticed. Whispers rippled through the assembly, surprised that the formidable warrior had acknowledged a simple human. Rhys felt a surge of satisfaction, a feeling of having broken through a seemingly impenetrable barrier. He knew his action might be seen as audacious by some, but he held the conviction that everyone, regardless of their power or demeanor, deserved a measure of respect. As the gathering dispersed, Rhys watched Alana, sensing that beneath her composed exterior lay a depth beyond just a warrior's persona. He intuited a history of battles fought and hardships endured. He was captivated by her untold story, her reasons for joining the Federation, and the intricacies hidden within her formidable facade. Unbeknownst to him, this seemingly insignificant connection would evolve into an unusual friendship that would leave everyone astounded. Rhys's simple gesture of kindness was the first step in a journey beyond anything he could have imagined. The following days were marked by a palpable awkwardness. Alana's presence, so commanding and quiet, left many unsure how to behave around her. She moved through the Federation headquarters with an aura of intense self-possession, prompting others to give her a wide berth. In meetings, her silence was more powerful than any speech, and the other members would exchange anxious glances, their voices dropping to hushed whispers whenever she entered the room. Alana would take her seat, observing with a watchful gaze that made some feel as if she were evaluating their very essence. She spoke rarely, and when she did, her tone was measured and direct, further reinforcing the perception of her as distant and unapproachable. The following days were marked by a palpable awkwardness. Zarina's presence, so commanding and quiet, left many unsure how to behave around her. She moved through the Alliance headquarters with an aura of intense self-possession, prompting others to give her a wide berth. In meetings, her silence was more powerful than any speech, and the other members would exchange anxious glances, their voices dropping to hushed whispers whenever she entered the room. Zarina would take her seat, observing with a watchful gaze that made some feel as if she were evaluating their very essence. She spoke rarely, and when she did, her tone was measured and direct, further reinforcing the perception of her as distant and unapproachable. Leo noticed how uncomfortable everyone felt around Zarina, but his curiosity outweighed any apprehension. He remembered the small nod she had given him when he waved, and he suspected there might be more to her than met the eye. During breaks and meals, Leo attempted to sit near her, hoping for an opportunity to converse. However, Zarina always sat alone, her expression distant, as if she were a soldier out of place amongst civilians. One day, Leo summoned his courage and decided to sit across from her in the cafeteria. Zarina looked up, her gaze steady and intense, as if assessing him. For a moment, Leo felt a flicker of nervousness, but he took a deep breath and introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Leo. I'm a mechanic here," he said, offering a smile. "I thought maybe you'd like some company." Zarina stared at him silently for a few seconds. "I don't need company," she finally replied, her voice calm and direct. Leo felt a sting of embarrassment, but he persisted. "Well, maybe I do. It's, not every day we get to meet someone from Tarlac," he said, hoping to pique her interest. Zarina tilted her head slightly, as if considering his words. "Humans are unusual," she finally said, her voice steady. "Most avoid me. But you do not." Leo chuckled. "Yeah, humans are good at doing unexpected things." He took a bite of his food and added, "I think you're just misunderstood. People fear what they don't know." Zarina seemed to contemplate his statement, but she didn't reply. Instead, she gave a small nod before returning to her meal. Though she didn't speak much, Leo felt a small connection had been made, a flicker of hope. Meanwhile, other Alliance members noticed Leo's attempts to befriend Zarina. Some thought he was reckless, others were curious to see if he could actually get through to her. One of them, a reptilian alien named Rex, pulled Leo aside one day. "Leo, why are you trying so hard to talk to her?" Rex asked, his scales shimmering under the lights. "She's from Tarlac. She's not like us. She doesn't care about friends." Leo shrugged. "Maybe not. But I think there's more to her than what we see. She's here to help, right? Maybe she's not as different as we think." Rex looked doubtful but didn't argue. "Just be careful," he warned. Tarlacians aren't known for their gentle nature. Later that week, Leo found himself in the training room, observing Zarina practice her combat skills. Her movements were fluid and powerful, a mesmerizing display of controlled aggression. He watched, captivated, until she finished and noticed him. "You wish to spar?" she asked, her voice devoid of any inflection. Leo, surprised by the unexpected invitation, quickly agreed. He knew he was no match for her physically, but he couldn't resist the opportunity to interact with her. The sparring match was unlike anything Leo had ever experienced. Zarina moved with a speed and precision that was almost inhuman. Her attacks were relentless, each strike carrying enough force to knock him off his feet. Leo, however, was quicker than she anticipated. He dodged and weaved, using his agility to avoid her blows. He knew he couldn't match her strength, so he focused on defense, trying to tire her out. He landed a few light punches, but they barely seemed to register. Zarina, impressed by his resilience, increased the intensity of her attacks. She pressed forward, forcing Leo to retreat. He stumbled, narrowly avoiding a powerful kick that would have sent him flying. "You are persistent," Zarina observed, her voice still calm. "But persistence alone will not win this fight." Leo grinned, panting. "Maybe not. But I'm not giving up yet." He changed his tactics, using his smaller size to his advantage. He darted around her, trying to find an opening. He feinted left, then spun right, landing a solid punch to her side. Zarina grunted, momentarily surprised. She recovered quickly, however, and countered with a swift move that sent Leo sprawling. He landed hard, the air knocked out of his lungs. He lay there for a moment, trying to catch his breath. Zarina stood over him, her expression unreadable. "Do you yield?" she asked. Leo coughed, then slowly pushed himself up. "Not a chance," he said, his voice strained. He knew he was outmatched, but he refused to surrender. He had to show her, and everyone watching, that humans weren't weak. He got back on his feet, ready to continue. Zarina seemed to consider him for a moment, then a flicker of something that might have been respect crossed her face. She lowered her stance, her expression softening slightly. "You have spirit," she said. "Perhaps you are not as weak as you seem." She continued the spar, but her attacks were less forceful, more like a training exercise than a fight. Leo, sensing the shift, adjusted his strategy, focusing on learning from her movements. He realized she wasn't trying to hurt him, but to teach him. He studied her footwork, her balance, the way she used her body as a weapon. He learned more in that one sparring session than he had in months of training. The other Alliance members watched in stunned silence as the spar continued. They had expected Leo to be quickly defeated, but he had held his own, even managing to land a few blows. They were impressed by his resilience, and by Zarina's unexpected patience. When the sparring session finally ended, Leo was exhausted but exhilarated. He felt a sense of accomplishment, a feeling that he had earned Zarina's respect. He had also gained a newfound appreciation for her skill and strength. "You are a worthy opponent," Zarina said, offering him a hand. "Perhaps we will spar again sometime." Leo grinned, accepting her hand. "I'd like that," he said. He knew he still had much to learn, but he was eager to continue training with her. He had a feeling this was just the beginning of a unique and unexpected friendship. The days after their rescue were a whirlwind of medical checks, debriefings, and celebrations. Leo, though physically unscathed, found himself processing the emotional toll of their ordeal. He was hailed as a hero, a symbol of human resilience, which felt strange and unfamiliar. He'd simply done what he had to do, relying on his instincts and Zarina's guidance. Zarina, as expected, received accolades for her leadership and tactical brilliance. While she acknowledged the praise with her usual stoicism, Leo noticed a subtle shift in her demeanor. The impenetrable wall around her seemed to have cracked, revealing glimpses of vulnerability and even warmth. She sought Leo out more often, engaging in brief conversations that extended beyond mission protocols. They spoke of their shared experience on the desolate planet, the quiet moments by the fire, the unspoken understanding that had blossomed between them. One evening, Leo found Zarina alone in the observation deck, staring out at the swirling nebulae. He joined her, and for a while, they stood in comfortable silence. "It's strange," Leo finally said, "being back among so many people." Zarina nodded, her gaze still fixed on the cosmos. "It is different. I keep thinking about that planet," Leo continued. "It felt like a lifetime ago, yet it's only been a few weeks." "Time has a way of distorting itself in isolation," Zarina replied, her voice soft. "But it also clarifies what truly matters." Leo looked at her, sensing a deeper meaning in her words. "And what is that?" he asked gently. Zarina turned to him, her dark eyes meeting his. "Connection," she said simply. "The bonds we forge, the strength we find in each other. That is what sustains us, even in the face of the unknown." Leo felt a warmth spread through him, a sense of understanding that transcended words. He knew their connection, forged in the crucible of shared hardship, was something rare and precious. He also sensed that their time together, in this capacity, was drawing to a close. The following day, Zarina was summoned back to Tarlac. The Alliance, having secured vital intelligence during their mission, was preparing for a decisive offensive against the Vanu. Zarina's expertise was crucial, and her people needed her. Leo found her in the docking bay, preparing to board her transport. He approached her, a mix of emotion swirling within him. He wanted to express his gratitude, his admiration, but words seemed inadequate. "I'll miss our talks," Leo said, managing a small smile. Zarina met his gaze, her expression unreadable. Then, to Leo's surprise, she reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder. The touch was brief, but it held a weight of unspoken emotion. "You have shown me the strength of humans, Leo," she said, her voice low. "You are not as weak as you believe." And with that, she turned and boarded the transport. As the ship ascended, Leo watched until it disappeared into the vastness of space. He knew they might never cross paths again, but the memory of their shared ordeal, the unlikely friendship they had forged, would stay with him forever. He had faced his fears, discovered his own resilience, and learned the true meaning of connection from the most unexpected of teachers, a tall, powerful alien woman who had shown him that even the most formidable exterior can conceal a depth of strength and compassion. He returned to his duties, a changed man ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, carrying with him the lessons he had learned on a desolate planet light years away.